Hi guys, welcome back to the Spotlight Kid channel. So it's that time of the year again. Time to take stock of the year that's been and reflect on the albums that have come out in 2021. And there were many. It seems like a lot of the artists used their inability to tour through 2020 to put their creative talents to good use and produce new music for all of us to enjoy. And boy, did we get a lot of it. Trying to sort through it really has been a gargantuan task, but hey, having too much great music to listen to is a problem I love to have. For myself, while for the previous few years I've been much more focused on the past, namely classic heavy metal and hard rock from the 70s and 80s, some of which I've made videos about on this channel, this year I returned more to the death metal fold once again. My personal favorite part of that genre is the technical and progressive end of the spectrum, and this year the bands in those fields certainly didn't let me down. And for that reason, they're going to feature heavily through most of my album of the year list. So, here I'm going to go through my top 10 albums of the year from 10 to 1, and then I'll give a ton of honourable mentions that were all pretty damn close to being included in the top 10, but ultimately just missed the cut. Anyway, starting at number 10, we have XDO, the 13 Years of Nero. So this is XDO's fourth studio album and sees these veterans of the legions return to give us another fantastic history lesson through the lens of pummeling symphonic death metal, with fantastic anthemic powerhouse tracks that just make you want to march with the legions into battle. This album is really highly enjoyable. Standout tracks for me are the opener, The Fall of Claudius, and Boudica, Queen of the Iceni. I messed that up, but anyway. It's actually featuring Brittany Slays, who is helping out playing the Queen's parts to great effect. A really, really cool album, definitely worth checking out. Coming in at number 9, we have Archspire and Bleed the Future. So this is Archspire's fourth album as well, I believe. And for a band already known for punching the envelope of extreme technical playing, they somehow managed to push it even further. This time bringing even better songwriting and melody into their utterly ferocious onslaught. This band is definitely not for the faint-hearted, but lovers of the extreme are in for a truly pummeling but fun journey. Standout tracks for me are the opener Drone Corpse Aviator and the title track Bleed the Future. So, taking the 8th place is Obscura with A Valediction. So A Valediction is Obscura's 6th full-length album and sees the reconstitution of the band with former members Christian Malmsner, the guitar legend, Jeroen Paul Thesseling on the bass returning, and with new drum recruit David Diepold rounding out the lineup with, of course, main man Stefan Kumera. Musically, I hear a lot of the Cosmogenesis and Omnivium sound here. However, there is also much more variety in the sound and approach, making this a more mature and well-rounded album than those mentioned. The guitar playing is really the star on this album, with Christian again showing what an absolute beast he is on the axe. Personally, I like the weird direction they went down with Acroasi, and then even more crazy with the masterpiece Diluvium. I prefer those two albums. However, those members from the Diluvium album anyway have all gone off and formed the new band Obsidious, which will be delivering their debut next year. And the first couple of singles that they've released are really killer, so I can't wait for that. So it'll be great to have both bands to enjoy. Anyway, the standouts on this album so far for me are Devoured Usurper, Forsaken, In Adversity, and When Stars Collide. But really, it's a very consistently great album. Coming in at number 7, we have Between the Buried and Me with Colors 2. Well, this is the band's 11th album and sees these veterans return to their first truly breakthrough record, Colors, for a sequel. So does it work? The answer is a definite yes. This sees the band at their most creatively potent in a long time, and probably, in my opinion, at their very best. Colors 2 is loaded with everything from death metal to classic 70s like prog to hardcore to just pure musical insanity. But unlike some of their previous efforts, which were at times sounding a bit haphazard, this feels very seamless and flows perfectly from track to track and internally within the songs too. Excellent effort from these guys who have hit their peak to date. Standout tracks would be probably for me Bad Habits and Human as Hell, the epic album closer. Great tracks. But again, the whole album is really good, so go check it out. Flying into the 6th spot is Inferi with Vile Genesis. So this is Inferi's 6th full-length, or 5th if you don't include their re-recorded version of End of an Era that they did a few years ago. In recent years, Inferi have been pretty hard to beat at the top spot for me, and I had a hard time pushing them this far down the list this time too. It's just that some of the albums above just touch me more on an emotional level. Inferi blend full throttle tech death aggression and execution with some of the best melodic hooks and catchy guitar solos in the game, and are still, however, one of my favorite bands, and I think this album is truly masterful as well. They haven't changed up their formula all that much, although they have brought in now legendary metal producer Dave Otero, who has given the album a fantastic production sound, making these already epic songs sound even more gigantic. Standout tracks for me are Maelstrom Prison, Mesmeric Horror, and Heirs of the Descent. But again, the whole album is incredibly consistent. Coming in at number 5, we have The Beast of Nod with Multiversal. So returning with their sophomore album, The Beast of Nod are another band that has really lifted their game this time around. Their debut was really a cool album, but here the level of technical and progressive chops and execution mixed with pure nastiness and aggression is truly impressive. From the very first moment on this concept album, you feel like you're being thrown across the galaxy at warp speed without a seatbelt, having every bone in your body pulverized while simultaneously witnessing the most beautiful cosmic phenomena in the universe. It's really cool stuff. The album also has a bunch of cool guest blah blah blah. I need to learn how to speak again. The album also has a bunch of cool guest appearances just to add to the fun as well. It's extremely heavy, but also with a sense of adventure and fun that's sort of permeating the whole thing. Standouts are, and I'm going to struggle with the name of this track, I think they did this on purpose just to fuck with people like me, Flight of the Quetzalcoatlus? I don't know. Contemporary Calamity, and Shredding of the Cosmos. Awesome stuff, really cool. Okay, coming in at number 4, we have First Fragment's Glory Eternal. So this is First Fragment's 3rd album, and in my opinion, the band's greatest achievement to date. The band is being spearheaded by the guitar master Phil Tugar, who is another guy making a name for himself as one of the best in the game. For this album, they've also brought on board one of my favorite metal bass players in Dominic Forrest Lapont. And wow, the interplay between them is off the charts. The other guys in the band are all killer too, and from the moment this album launches off, it's an unrelenting, technical, neoclassical extravaganza. Phil recently said in an interview that he doesn't see it as death metal per se, but it definitely is still that intense and heavy. But musically, it's almost more like something new, like power metal, tech death metal or something. Power tech death metal. Anyway, if blistering instrumental insanity is your thing with plenty of neoclassical melody all over the place, growled French vocals, and mind-bending bass playing of the highest order, then this is for you. A remarkable statement of artistic freedom through absolute playing prowess. Standout tracks are Solace, with its reference to the band Theory and Practice, which one of my favorite bands from the past. Absolutely love it. I love that they threw that in there. Here we go again with the pronunciations. Of course it has to be in French and I'm gonna massacre it, so I apologize to the guys in advance, but fuck you for making it in French. It's La Veuve et la Mater and Suif Brûlante and in L. Okay, so, but really, you know, the whole thing is masterful. You could really drop the needle on any point of this album and you're in for a really extravaganza. Anyway, so here we go, the top 3 for this year. So number 3 really took me by surprise this year, actually. And I absolutely love this album. Can't get enough of it. It's Burial in the Sky with The Consumed Self. This is the band's 3rd full-length album and sees the band really stretching their creative wings to wonderful effect. The songs are loaded with feeling and progression while retaining the total pummeling death metal ferocity. They combine unrelenting vocal growls with occasional clean vocal beauty. It gives the album a really stunning beauty while not giving up on the technical and progressive power and aggression provided by the rest of the band. A truly masterful effort from these guys, and one I totally wasn't expecting to be so high on my list. Standout tracks really could be anything, but let's say On Wings of Providence, Wayfarer, and Anatomy of Us. Just 3 examples. The whole album is perfect. So that's pretty much just random choices. You can really, again, drop the needle anywhere and it's going to be great. So as much as I love the other albums on this list, the top 2 albums have stood out and above since I first heard them. They both hooked directly into my emotional center and have really remained there ever since. The first of the 2 coming in at the number 2 spot is Iotan with Access All Worlds. This is the band's debut full-length, and in my opinion, it's got to be one of the best debut albums in metal history. Between the enormous galaxy-sized instrumentation from the band and the top-tier vocal talents of John Aldara soaring above it all, this really is something very special. Managing to sound mature beyond the band's limited output to the point of creating an album that channels both progressive metal while again retaining the might and power of death metal. All executed with passion and emotion spilling out at every turn. A true synthesis between singer and band, highlighting each other's strengths and encouraging them. Everything feels like it's in its right place and was meant to be there. This is a perfect album and I love everything about it and unreservedly recommend it to any fans of heavy music of any kind. It's magical and transcendent and I love it. The standouts, the whole damn album. Just get this album, you won't regret it. And finally, the other album that cleared itself from the pack early on is my number 1 choice for this list. Fractal Universe with The Impassable Horizon. Now, I've already spoken at length on this channel about this album, and if you want an in-depth review, go check it out here on my channel. And also, I did an interview with Vince Wilquin, the frontman of the band. Really nice guy, nice insights in that, so go check out that interview as well. But I will say, again, that this album is really pure perfection from start to finish. They blend the technical and progressive mastery so seamlessly with the emotional impact of this album that it too, like Iotan's album, feels like it was always meant to be and has always sort of existed just as it is in some cosmic realm waiting to be written down and recorded. The playing is perfect, the writing is transcendent, and the production is great. A true masterpiece. Standout tracks, again, the whole album is pure perfection. So go get it now. I'm sure you won't regret it. So that's my top 10 for 2021. Now I'm just going to go through a whole swag of honorable mentions of bands who are deserving as well, in my opinion. So they're sort of ranked. I continued the ranking, but you know, it's not as strict per se. So coming in at 11 is Mastodon with Hushed and Grim. Perhaps an honorary position because I haven't really fallen in love with this album yet, although I haven't spent as much time with it. And I know that in the past this has happened to me before. My initial reaction wasn't so, I wasn't so enamored with some of their previous albums, and then over time came to really love them. So it's a little bit of an honorary spot. Coming in at number 12 is Paradox, Heresy 2, End of a Legend. The sequel to their classic album Heresy. It's awesome. It's another album featuring Christian Malmsner, ripping it up on the guitar. Progressive thrash metal. Definitely go check it out. 13, we've got Crystal Viper with The Cult. Traditional heavy metal, sort of slash power metal. You got Martha Gabriel on lead vocals, who in my opinion is my favorite, and I think the best female singer going around at the moment in that genre anyway. Then you've got coming into 14th place is Halloween with their self-titled album. Of course, that's power metal all the way. Great stuff from those veterans. Coming in 15th place, I have Illustrium, A Moment of Silence, which is progressive technical death metal. Really cool stuff. 16, Anakim, The Elysian Void. This is technical death metal. Very cool, awesome playing, some cool bass lines, very nice stuff. Number 17, Ophidian Eye with Desolate. This is progressive technical death metal, really of the highest order as far as technical playing, in the same realm as First Fragment and Arcspire. Just really mind-bending playing and very cool stuff. Coming in at 18 is Whitechapel with Kin. This is sort of progressive deathcore slash death metal. I've never really been a fan of Whitechapel. Never really listened to them before. But I heard some good things about this album, so I checked it out, and it's a good album. It's really enjoyable, so it's on the list. Coming in at 19, we have Chemist with Deceiver. Epic doom, epic heavy metal. Very cool stuff. I haven't had much time with this album, and I really like their previous album, so it might move up my list as time goes on, but for now it's included. Coming in at number 20 is Eternity's End, Embers of War. I would call this technical power metal. This again is Christian Malmsner's band, so that's 3 absolute shredding fucking extravaganzas from Christian. A true master of the guitar. Definitely, if you haven't checked out any of his work, do yourself a favor if you like, crazy guitar playing. Coming in at 21, we've got Carcass, the veterans, returned with Torn Arteries. Really great stuff, continuing on from what they, have been doing excellently for a long time now. Coming into the 22nd spot, we've got Iron Maiden with Senjutsu. Again, this might be kind of like an honorary position. I'm not crazy about modern Maiden. I'm much more. I'm not even the hugest Dickinson fan, although I do love those early Dickinson albums too. But I'm much more of a Di'Anno guy. I love the first 2 Maiden albums the most. But it's a good sort of palate cleanse for some of this death metal stuff. So I've enjoyed it in that capacity. Coming in at 23 is Cynic with Ascension Codes, which is, of course, progressive metal. It probably would rank higher, but I feel like the middle of the album, it kind of loses the plot. The bookends of the album are really great. It sounds like a Cynic album, and I love Cynic's old stuff. It just, I don't know, something happens in the middle of the album and becomes a snooze fest. Anyway, 24, we have Deviant Process with Nurture. This is progressive technical death metal, again of the highest order. Very cool stuff. Maybe in a weaker year it would have ranked higher up in the order, but there you go. Coming at 25, we have Rivers of Nile with The Work. Again, progressive technical death metal. Their previous album, Where Owls Know My Name, is much better in my opinion. Or not better, but just I prefer it. This is a much more, I guess their vision for this album might have had a sort of grander scope, but I don't know how well it really works. But it's definitely definitely a good album. Coming in 26, Cognizance with Upheaval, just good technical death metal, you know, straight to the point stuff. 27, Vitrified Entity, Eternal Vitreous Dissolve. Again, technical death metal, instrumental, absolutely mind-bending bass playing and guitar playing. If you like, just listening to like guys play and just go, what? This is the album for you. 28, In Mourning with The Bleeding Veil, progressive melodic death metal, very cool stuff. 29, we have, I'm not sure how to pronounce their name, Vildjata, progressive gent. I wasn't really expecting to like this album. I'm not much of a gent fan, but and I keep thinking every time I put it on that, okay, this is going to be the time that I realize I don't like it, but I do every time. It's interesting and cool, and yeah, maybe a little bit too long, but great. And coming in at number 30 is Abiotic with Ikigai, which is progressive technical deathcore / death metal. Again, really cool stuff. Definitely go check it out. And I'll throw in a couple of EPs as well. We've got Chiliasm, the same guys as from Vitrified Entity, and basically the same thing, just absolutely mind-bending technical death metal, this time with vocals though. And Phlebotomized have returned with an EP called Pain, Resistance and Suffering, which is melodic technical death metal, pretty epic stuff. Anyway guys, that's my list for the year. It's been another crazy hard year for me personally, besides all the COVID business that we all have to deal with. But thankfully music, like always, has continued to be there for me, and for that I'm eternally grateful. And to the bands on this list as well, I'd just like to say thank you all from the bottom of my heart for what you do. It really is much appreciated. I'd also like to mention that I recently watched the Beatles Get Back documentary, and it's really rekindled my love of the Beatles. So while I've been obsessing over tech and prog death all year, I'm also closing it out with a full-blown case of Beatlemania, so that's fun. So anyone who has any interest in the Beatles should definitely invest the time and check out the doco. It's amazing stuff. And it's also nice to just have, you know, a full spectrum of different sounds and things to enjoy when it comes to music. That's my opinion anyway. Anyway guys, if you like that, please hit the like and subscribe button for more hard rock, heavy metal, death metal, and much more content to come. And until then, thanks for watching, stay metal, and see you next time.